Hi everyone. This is my comment about what criticism I would levy against every Democratic candidate who was on the debate stage last night, and what advice I would give them. Hey Mr. Steyer, there's no greater show of why wealth inequality is a giant problem in our country than you. You're actually one of the rare circumstances of a good billionaire. Your heart is in the right place on a lot of issues, but what is your instinct? It's to run for president. I mean, no amount of power is ever enough. No amount of success ever scratches the itch that you need to. Let's be honest. If you were just another guy, there's no way that you would be up on this stage. You're given credibility in this process specifically because you're rich. We cannot have a functional society by hoping that there are a handful of benevolent benefactors for the things that we need, because at any time they can just change their mind and then we're screwed. So, even if you are personally a nice guy, you are a symptom of the problem. Advice. You want to fix this situation? You want to drive turnout? Drop out and use your money to flip state houses and to fund vote empowerment groups. You're polling at 2%. You are one of the very few people that could actually affect not only races but issues all over the country just by using that money for structural advancement. Hey, Senator Harris, Obama was a war criminal. He implemented double-tap drone strikes. That's when we drop a missile on a person we think is a suspected terrorist, and then some random person on the ground says, "Oh my God, are you hurt? You're bleeding, let me get you to a hospital." And then our drone hovers over the area and drops another missile to kill that person too. Obama did that. That is a war crime. And his excuse was, well, what was that person doing hanging around a terrorist? Maybe that second person was a terrorist also, just trying to help his friend. So we kill two of them at once, despite having no idea who the second person is. The day we are unable to criticize Barack Obama is the day we might as well stop pretending that we have any principles at all. And by the way, forget about Tulsi for a second. Where would any Democrat go to make this point on television? Certainly not on MSNBC or CNN. Those places don't even tolerate nice criticism of Democrats from the left. Advice. Stop trying to be hip. You're not hip. You have this goofy, uncomfortable laugh, and you try to use little infusions of slang, and this like Sherman Hemsley affect, and little jokes and things. You sound like an actress playing the role of a senator on a bad TV show. You sound like Maya Rudolph pretending to be you, but she's being satirical and you're not. Hey, Senator Warren, you act as though it'll be easier to pass your health care plan in 2 separate votes. Here is how many votes you're likely to get through the Senate. 0. Even if McConnell loses, which he won't, and even if Democrats take the Senate, which they may, you still probably don't have the votes to nuke the filibuster or to overcome a filibuster. So if you're going to spend every drop of political capital you have, it's going to have to be to pass one thing. You're not going to get 2, and you're certainly not going to get 2 after the midterms when everyone digs in their heels even more because 2024 is coming up. Advice. You are in the perfect lane to win. You were just establishment enough for the CNN crowd to not go to war against you, at least not yet, and you were just left-wing enough to pull a little bit of the margin for Bernie. But you get freaked out by criticism. The media kept asking how you'd pay for Medicare for all until you designed this disjointed mess with all sorts of regressive elements in it, and it's piecemeal and there's 100 different wires to trip over. The most important aspect of having a plan is having the actual plan to get it done. So it's not just words on a page, but you actually have a strategy as to how you're going to implement it. This was instead the healthcare version of Trump spooking you into doing the DNA test because Republicans are crazy people and you listen to them. Have confidence in your plans. Hey, Mayor Buttigieg, your record on black issues is awful. From the black police chief that you fired, to the gentrification in your city, to the fact that you claim the endorsements of black activists who had actually endorsed Bernie and then used stock footage from Kenya to represent your black support, giving black voters increased exposure to your record is not going to get you those votes like you think it will. Advice? Instead of speaking for 3 minutes about nothing, take a page out of Biden and give a yes or no. We get it. Obama said a lot of flowery things and made people believe in him, even though there were not a lot of specifics. He was also a generationally gifted talent who could have read the phone book and gotten votes. You are not Obama and the shtick is tired. It's Martin O'Malley-like stuff, and even if you do well for a while, people are going to see through it. And someone like Trump, whose success is partly due to him exposing liberal hypocrisy, is going to tear it apart. Hey, Mr. Yang, how many things do you think that your $1,000 a month is actually going to pay for? You speak about how somehow people are going to be able to use their $1,000 a month to seek higher ground from climate change. How are people going to afford new houses when their current houses will be worthless because they'll be flooded, and real estate is even going to be more scarce when you're in higher ground? It's your $1,000 is supposed to supplant welfare benefits. It's supposed to help pay for education. How is there going to be any money left to deal with childcare, even assuming that everyone can keep it and it won't just go to higher rents and higher cost of living, which is very possible? Advice: speak up and get more attention. I mean, you're doubling Harris's numbers in Iowa. You spoke for 7 minutes last night. Harris spoke for almost twice as long because she kept situating herself in arguments with other candidates. Hey, Senator Booker, we need to heal. We need to bring people together. I'll use creativity. This totally misunderstands the problem. The two parties are funded by oligarchs and corporations who tell them it doesn't matter what policies you think you believe in, you will pass the bills that I want you to, or I'll give my money to someone who will beat you in your next election. There's no amount of creativity that is going to bring people together if you don't tackle things systemically. Advice: you talk about voter suppression and also say that we need to heal. You can't do both. Republicans suppress the vote because they can, because they are never made to pay a price for doing so, because they can break any norm and Democrats just want to work together with them and heal. So there's no incentive for them to play by the rules. There's no incentive for them to be moderate, no incentive for them to even follow the laws. You smile a lot, but it's time for some sticks and not just carrots. The way to heal the divide is to show that Republican obstruction cannot be tolerated, and you can't do that while you're trying to reach out to Republican politicians and pretending that bygones should just be bygones. Hey, Senator Sanders, spit it out. The reason that Trump can be locked up is because he's a criminal, like a 50-time criminal. That's why he should be locked up, and that's why it is not just the same as locking up political opponents like they do in dictatorships. It protects the norms to lock Trump up. It doesn't destroy the norms. It takes 20 words to say this, not 200 words. Advice: you have to be unique on the stage. If people think they can just vote for someone younger than you who has the same general policies, they will do that. You have to show that nobody is even close to your policies, and that's why everybody in the establishment hates you. Iowa is in 2 months. You have to start calling out the pretenders. Say, with due respect, Mayor Pete, your health care plan is garbage. Medicare for all works because everyone is in the same risk pool. That's what drives the cost down. Your way is going to bloat the public option until Republicans can just easily kill it. Hey, Elizabeth Warren, with due respect, when someone asks you if you support Palestinian children who are suffering, you say, yes, I do. You don't give a 6-minute answer about how there's corruption in the military. If there were even no corruption at all, you'd still have people calling for Israel to keep making those children suffer, which is why you need a leader who will stand up for them. You have to start throwing some elbows, Bernie. It wouldn't kill you to call out the moderators either. Hey, Senator Klobuchar. You want to play Name Your Favorite Woman President? How about Name Your Favorite Jewish President? Or Name Your Favorite Asian President? Or Name Your Favorite Gay President? The identity politics stuff can only get you so far. There's a whole bunch of women that are running for office, and every single candidate, including some of them who are not even on the stage, have some sort of characteristic which defines them as different from previous presidents. You have to actually stand for something. Advice: Walter Mondale, who, by the way, you mentioned at a different part in your speech, told people that he was going to raise taxes. Nobody is looking for the look under your chair, there's nothing there line. It's okay to be realistic a little bit. Mondale lost 49 states. Your whole campaign cannot be about getting people to expect crumbs as the best case scenario. If that happens, even if you win, we barely win anything. Hey, Congresswoman Gabbard. This left-right division that you keep talking about is total nonsense. Democrats cross the aisle all the time. Republicans do not. This is a totally, totally one-sided issue. And by the way, when it comes to your signature issue, which is the military-industrial complex, the parties are not divided at all. They're both on the same side. By the way, they are also on the same side for cutting entitlements, for opposing single-payer, for deregulating the banks. There is no left-right divide in Washington. They're both on the same side. It's just that they never move leftward together. They move rightward together all the time, and you should be calling this out, not saying that there is some sort of division for which both sides are equally at fault. Advice? You have left-wing fans. You have to have more than two messages, which are you want to end regime change wars and you want to stop dividing the country. And by the way, this regime change wars thing, nobody knows what you're talking about. It's something that only you are really defining. In 1991, we had the first Gulf War, and Bush 41 decided not to remove Saddam Hussein. Was that a war that you would have supported because it didn't end in a regime change? We get it. You've made your points about war. You've had 4 debates. We know the DNC hates you, and they're wrong, and you're right. But you're also repeating yourself, and so you're not going to grow any further support. And by the way, before you point at Bernie and say that he repeats himself, his agenda is a massive, all-encompassing left-wing vision. He talks about foreign policy, drugs, healthcare, police brutality, marijuana, prison reform, housing reform, wages, banking reform, social justice, immigrant rights, campaign finance reform, voter suppression, clean water. He can keep repeating himself because he has 50 years of receipts and hours of stuff to repeat. The one thing that 90% of the country knows about you is that you are a soldier and you dislike war. Hey, Vice President Biden, you're done. You sound like one of the candidates got ill just before the debate, and then his grandfather came on to be able to fill in for him and try to make the points that he wanted to make. You can't get through 3 sentences without sounding totally incoherent, garbling your words, and looking like you're completely exhausted. And that's even before we get to your policies, which range from being 20 to 50 years out of date. Advice? You gotta go, Joe. Kamala Harris needs to go also, because if she gets crushed in California, which looks likely right now, she's gonna damage her future prospects, assuming she has any. But if you don't get out of this thing, you're gonna damage an entire 50-year career of public service. You were vice president for 8 years. You helped push for gay marriage. You have to let that be your legacy, not this terribly embarrassing presidential campaign.